turns out the little lemmings are running off a cliff.
Yeah, they're going fast.
There's nothing you can do about it.
That's wrong.
Is like,
you can do something about it.
Oh, can you? Okay. So what we're talking about, the cliff we're talking about is the Windows cliff.
That's coming.
Yeah, Windows user space. You didn't know it was coming. Here it is. So Windows 10, October 2025. Done. It's over. End of life. No more updates. You can probably still run it. It'll probably still go. I mean, people are still using Windows XP. It's crazy.
It'll be a little dangerous. Yep.
Yeah. And I'm sure Windows 7 too. Wanna cry, anyone? Yeah. Eternal Blue still exists. Next year, in 1 year, Windows 10 will be added to that pile of things that won't get updates from now on.
That's correct.
So it's not just to tell you about that. It's to ask a question to you, and most specifically right at this very, very moment, Dan, what do we do about this? Do we encourage people to use Linux? Go to your local lug, let them install Linux on it for you. At least that way you'll get updates. Or do we do the pragmatic thing and just tell them to buy a Mac?
I mean, ultimately, I think you just box it up and you send it to Leo and I, and find something. We'll find something to do with it.
That's
Send it
the
to us,
answer.
We'll take it.
We need, like, we're gonna set up our own little Less server farm with consumer grade hardware. We'll put Ubuntu 24.04 on it, run it for 5-10 years. Oh yeah.
I think if you get enough consumer grade hardware, it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, it'll just be enough of it running, and it'll just run.
Just set it all into failover. Do all kinds of like Docker, Swarmy, Kubernetes kind of stuff.
Yeah. Right.
And then, it doesn't matter.
Clusters, here we come.
Exactly. You just add and remove whenever you need to, however you need to, and everything is good. So,
yeah, that short of all that though, right? Say you actually do want to hang on to your hardware. Linux is probably a really good solution, right?
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably already running Linux anyway.
Yeah.
So, those machines that you can't get to the Windows 11 on, well, there you go. They make a decent Linux box, I'm sure.
Yep, definitely, right? Because if it could run Windows 10, okay, no, Windows 10 was the one where you could literally put it on a potato. It would run bad, but it would boot.
Well, hey, there's Ubuntu. That'll run out of potato. I mean, I'm just saying.
That's also true. That's also true. And without a GUI at all, you can do a good few server things with it.
Yeah. It's better than a Raspberry Pi, probably, still, right?
I bet it is.
It might use a little more, juice from the wall, but it's not going to be that bad.
Right. So for you listening to this podcast, if you have a Windows 10 machine that is heading toward that cliff, then yeah, man, run Linux on it. That's you listening to this podcast. You run Linux on it. And, do the whole command line thing, man. Like, truly learn some Linux, how to run services and all that kind of fun stuff. Come into the Discord or the Telegram or the Matrix room and have a chat with us, and we'll give you a gajillion ideas of what to do with something like that. And, I mean, we'll even give you a little boost, a little help, whatever you need.
If you need help, yeah, sure.
You would be surprised the amount of people that are just chomping at the bit in those rooms waiting for people to ask weird questions and stuff. It's actually
we've helped a few. It's been fun. I enjoy it.
Yep, and the community has helped more. So
absolutely. I don't do it all.
Yeah, not at all. But yeah, so okay, that's for you listening to the podcast. But what about your grandma?
Yeah, and your family members, right? Yeah,
right. So your niece, your nephew, the one that just wants to play Fortnite, anybody else, right? Like. What do you do? What do you tell them? How do you tell them to go to Linux?
I mean, maybe, but chances are you're probably already running a fairly oldish machine, so you're probably not running the latest AAA,
this would have been
stuff anyway.
Yeah, Intel pre 8th gen, so 7000 series or before,
right?
And this would be Ryzen pre-2000, so this would be Ryzen 1700, 1000 series and prior to that. So, yeah, I mean, we're talking, these came out in 2018, 2019-ish. Right. So there's 6 years. By the time this hits, they will be
7 years.
6 years old, 7 years old, right? So, I mean, they're getting long in the tooth. They may not be the best gaming machines anymore.
Yes. So you probably weren't doing that anyway. So I think it could probably work for most use cases is to switch to Linux, honestly. And
you know what I'm going to say.
You're going to give a distro recommendation?
Oh, of course. You know which one I'm going to say, too.
I do. And it's not a bad choice, but go ahead.
Unless this is the first episode you're listening to this podcast on, you know what I'm going to say as well, person listening to this. And it's Linux Mint, man. Just put Linux Mint on it. The cinnamon one.
Right.
And there's minimal learning curve. It looks and feels mostly like a Windows. And you can do what an 8-year-old machine was meant to do, and that's browse the web with less fear of getting rando Windows viruses.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
Continue to get updates. It'll get patches, all of that stuff. That's pretty great. Honestly, that's good advice. I'll broaden it just a tickle more. I think if you get yourself on a well-known distribution that you might have to do a little distro hop to get there. Present some options. Have the person take a look at them. But I think if you get on a well-known one that's got some good support avenues, that people can find information by easy web searching.
Yeah.
Maybe Ubuntu is not bad. Like, it's a good choice. There's some others though too. I don't want to restrict it to just that, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them probably are Debian derivatives. There's, I feel like, a little more written, at least for the end user, and not like a sysadmin type person.
Yeah.
Where you have to go
seasoned
Yeah,
tinkerer.
I mean that's a next level thing, and it might be where you end up eventually. But to start off with, I feel like you've got to go with something that has good documentation, and by that I mean easily web searchable for the end user.
Yeah. It may be best to just go with Ubuntu proper then.
Ubuntu proper is not bad because,
to be
if you do
honest.
If you do some searching on that, it'll come up very quickly and easily. Yeah. And there are a lot of screenshots, a lot of well-written articles to basically guide you along. In addition to the stuff that you can find in the Ubuntu wiki, right? Which is very easily to search too.
I have said maybe about 1.5 million times, and I'm not tired of saying it. I'll keep saying it. Anytime you need to look up anything for Linux Mint, you can just substitute in Ubuntu for it.
You can.
And
the screenshots will be different though. So that's kind of why I'm saying you might need to broaden it just a little bit, right?
And that's kind of where the maybe you just want Ubuntu came from. Because
maybe you do.
That way, when you search it up, it looks like you expect, and you won't have to wonder whether or not it's going to break anything. Anyway.
Yeah. So when you're looking at it on the web, you say, oh yeah, that box is right here where I expect it. It's not over here in a different, column or something.
Yeah.
Which it could be when you're looking at a different desktop environment. So I think keep it simple is basically the point. And I think Linux could be a good option.
Okay. So what about for those that it's not a good option for?
Wow. Okay.
I got to put you on the spot. I'm going to make you say it eventually.
What's that? I
don't know.
Get a tablet or smartphone?
Oh, that's worse. Those are both worse.
they are bad.
Yeah, you got to pick between Windows and Mac. What are you telling?
Well, if you're going to go Windows, you got to upgrade, right? You got to get a new piece of hardware. And maybe that is an option. Like, that's not terrible, because then, 7 years old is not a bad time to think about upgrading to something. You can string it along as possible, but maybe the time is now, because honestly, maybe your device is older than that. Maybe it's 10 years old now, right? And that's why you can't upgrade it. So if you're running that, 4th and 5th gen, Intel there.
It's this one right here. I don't know if you can, I don't think you can see it in the camera, but it's right here.
I can see the stickers
5th gen.
on it, so we're good. Yeah, right. If you're running those, maybe it is time to move on.
Oh, it definitely is.
To do hardware, right?
At that point, it'll be over 10 years old. So yeah, definitely time to move on.
And so Windows could still be on the table, I guess, if that's your jam.
Yep.
Sorry, it is, but it could be.
I still think, even if you're not a tinkerer, I seriously think that buying a framework laptop, if laptop is what you're after, buying a framework laptop and then just spending the fraction of the cost of a laptop to upgrade the motherboard every few years when Windows decides they want to pull these shenanigans, to stay up to date. I think that's still going to be
option.
One of your best bets.
Honestly,
because what you can do is go on the framework forum and be like, look, I need something that is going to be compatible with this version of Windows, and which motherboard do I need to buy for that, right? So the guys at Framework or the people that are close to the community will give you a good recommendation. You can buy that and then scoot on over to your local PC shop and be like, hey, this is a super repairable laptop. I just need you to swap these parts out.
Yep.
And then $100 later,
sure.
Yeah, $100 later, they do all that for you, and you're still not out the cost of another laptop. So,
yeah, that's true. And then like if you've set yourself up for a good platform, if you did want to think about migrating to Linux at some point, because
that's the
Framework
subtext.
has a very great Linux mentality, even though it's not necessarily the first thing.
Yeah,
it's very supported there. They
to be full disclosure, right? It's not a Linux laptop. It's just a laptop that can easily run Linux. I mean, it's very frictionless to get Linux on there. I didn't have any problem other than having to tinker with Secure Boot. That was it. And
that's trivial.
If you stay with the mains, with the Ubuntus and the Fedoras, then you don't even have to tinker with that. You just plug in the flash drive and boop, 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 boop. Ubuntu's installed. Everything's good.
I guess it goes back to what our recommendation was, right? Another good reason to pick something like Ubuntu or Ubuntu derivative, or even Debian or Fedora. Those things well supported. I guess that's the point.
Exactly. So, I mean, even if you plan on staying on Windows, get yourself a Framework, man. Fantastic pieces of kit, easily upgradable. You don't even have to do the upgrade yourself. I just can't say enough good about the Framework laptops, man. So, do you see that? I snuck in a Framework, hawking some Framework stuff. I threw in Firefox in there. I threw in good security practice in there. This is like all my favorite stuff.
We don't get paid by Framework, by the way.
Oh, no. Framework, if you're listening, I would get paid by you.
I mean, I suppose if you're going to toss some hardware our direction, we'll do some reviews.
Listen, I want that new display. The one where I can scale to 200% and it doesn't look weird. I want that one.
Yeah, I want to test that with Plasma because I'm pretty sure that'd be good.
Oh, buddy. That would look so good. So I'm on the verge of buying that. I'm on the verge of buying the AMD board as well, because I want to turn the board in here into my yet another server. But yeah, I'm not there yet. I got to drop some money because my desktop is. I usually do a 3-year desktop cadence. My desktop's 3 years old at Christmas, so if I'm gonna stick to my schedule, I got a couple of months to buy. So, I'm
on a little different cadence. I'm working on 5 here.
5,
but it's still working. But it's still working, right? So, like, I don't know. I bought some good stuff when I bought it, so I'm not complaining.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I bought the Framework laptop in between that, so it kind of threw off the cadence.
It's true. Yeah, it did help. Yeah, probably.
So, like, maybe I push it to 4, but I don't want to push it to 4. I want to buy it right now. I want to.
Yeah.
I want to be on that. I want to be on that 6-month desktop cadence. Okay. Full disclosure. That's where I want to be.
Yeah.
Just so I can be in constant flux of building machines. Like if that was still a job, that paid a livable salary, man, I'd be doing that job all day, every day, ripping stuff out, putting stuff in. I don't care if I got to install Windows. That's fine. I'll hawk Linux to you. Be like, you could try it, I mean, you bring back in a week. If you don't like it, I'll put Windows on it or whatever. But,
we got to pay them bills.
Yeah. So, I don't do that. It would be fun, though. It'd be really fun.
It would be. So what we didn't recommend, and I'm not saying that we don't recommend it.
I do. I actually do.
You do recommend it?
Yeah, I'm full chested. Oh, yeah, 1,000%, man. Go buy a Mac.
I mean, it's an option.
Look,
it's a little closed up, but like it's very functional. They make it easy to use.
Buying the Mac for the kind of person that does not care, just buy him a Mac. Get a MacBook Air, the 15-incher one, like the big one. It's about $1,000. You for the $1,000, which is the same price as the framework, mind you. Don't misunderstand. This is not like far and away out of the question. Like the Snapdragon, the new Snapdragon ones that Microsoft is putting out, and Asus and Acer and a couple of the others, right? Like those are also $1,000 starting out.
Yeah.
So like it's in the realm of sanity here. You can get 16 gigs, 512 gig, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage space. Yes, that's not changeable.
Yeah, it's not the framework. It's the opposite of that.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It's just the work.
Yep.
But I mean, it's gonna be a machine that's gonna last for more than 5 years.
Absolutely.
Continue getting security updates, and you're gonna be good for a very long time. These things have no fans. They're quiet. I mean, they'll run
battery life's fantastic, like absolutely fantastic. Hard to beat. Almost impossible.
Until I get a Snapdragon laptop in my hands to actually test this out, I will not say that they're better than the Mac, but they claim to be.
It's hard to say. Yeah, I mean, it's early days yet on that.
I want one though, so I'm gonna get one of those eventually. But yeah, man, just get a MacBook Air.
Talking about the Mac though. Like, it's not impossible to put Linux on. Asahi is a thing.
Oh, beautiful,
and
too.
So, like, maybe you're setting yourself up for being able to test out that
There's an
project
off-ramp,
at some point.
like we were talking about with Bitwarden. You'll have your Linux off-ramp with...
If you want to.
A Mac, exactly. If you want to, right? If you're a tinkerer, if you're curious, there's always going to be that off-ramp.
Well, even if you stay within the Mac OS ecosystem... there's some things you can do to kind of customize some of that stuff too, right? Like Homebrew is a thing that exists over there, just like it does in Linux.
Oh yeah, it started there, and Linux now gets to enjoy the fruits of the Homebrew labor.
Which is fantastic.
I love it. I love Homebrew, man. It's on the immutables, man, on the composables, or on the Auroras, the Silverblues. Yeah, man. Right. It's such a fantastic way to easily just grab whatever software you want. So,
but the same with the Mac, right? Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. 1,000%. I'll say it. Get him a Mac. Get him a MacBook Air. At least that way, you have a real, actual Unix box in their hands. And while it's not Linux, it's closer to Linux than Windows is.
Yep. It gives you some, you can use some of your Linux, hone some of your Linux skills and use some of those things over in Unix land too. So it might be a more comfortable fit if you're helping with things.
Your little, your Zish profile.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. You just put that right over. Just boop, boop, real quick.
Zish by default over there now.
I know, isn't it? It's nice. Yeah. It's nice. Pretty good.
Mm-hmm. But it's, you don't have to go learn PowerShell or something.
You got to learn a programming language to be able to do what Bash can already do. All right. I guess Bash is a bit of a programming language, but I feel like it's a little easier to understand than full-on object-oriented programming language. Okay.
So I want to highlight one more thing that's somewhat unrelated, but somewhat related. There's some Windows 11 versions that they've decided to pull the rug out on.
That's right.
So Dell certified some of their little mini small form factor desktops that we have at work, and they certified them for Windows 11. We got Windows 11 on them, and then recently the latest version of Windows 11, 24H2, dropped, and guess what? Not compatible on those.
Nope.
So you're stuck on the old version, which also sunsets the same time. So even though they kind of gave you an upgrade path, they've now yoinked that out from underneath us. And we're going to be in the same boat.
Yeah, I don't think there's any official statement on it, but it seems like Windows is trying to keep to this 5-year cadence.
Planned obsolescence.
Yeah. If your hardware is more than 5 years old, do not expect it to continue running modern Windows.
So maybe you don't want to think about Linux. Maybe you do want to think about Linux. You don't want to think about Windows in your upgrade path. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna make people have some hard choices, right? Especially the companies that have a little bit less money to be having a faster hardware update cadence, you're gonna have to at least think twice about it. You might still go with Windows, and you might still just bite the bullet and upgrade your hardware. But I mean, you're gonna be thinking about it. It's gonna be on your mind every time you spend those thousands of dollars on new hardware. It's gonna hurt every time.
Right. Just it seems arbitrary the choices that they've made to restrict
in the name of security, in the name of Spoopy Month.
Yep.
They've said your laptop is no good anymore.
It's obsolete.
It's gone. Throw it away. No, send it to us or just put Linux on it. I think that's the
answers. Yep.
Yeah.
And they're good answers.